You raise a good point, and I think we perhaps should also look into speaking to somebody like Emma. But I guess the real work also will be to uncover what actually happened with that trip that was undertook.
That would be very, very interesting. Indeed, we need to uncover exactly what happened, because where we are now, we don't live in limbo and just expect for things like that to happen and all of that. Followed by some of the statements that have been releasing throughout in terms of their view on the relationship between South Africa and other countries like that. But the point is, we want there to be able to face us this illegal surveillance happened or it did not happen.
All right, Tabiso.
Well, that's important. That's important.
We're going to have to leave it there. The line to you is also deteriorating. I think you raise a very good issue there. And let's not forget that as we speak, the U.S. lawmakers are going to be considering, right, that bill that is likely to lead to the sanctioning of some South African officials. In particular, it would look like it would be ANC officials. It's the U.S.-South Africa Bilateral Relations Review Act. And that, of course, is a bill that is seen as countering the behavior of South Africans, which the U.S. accuses of siding with communists and terrorists and abandoning it as an ally. So that issue very much is still on the go. But what role have some of these meetings played in either assisting or even trying to prevent things from escalating to the level that they are at today? Mkululeko, you're in Ejozini. Good morning.
Morning, SFM. The founding principle of the economic freedom fighters is that Africa, in our lifetime, we want Africa that is borderless.
Yes, sir.
That is decolonized. That is free from restrictions of these borders, of these lines that are separating us. Now, I just want to talk about that because there's these issues that are happening right now in South Africa of people being stopped from going to access facilities and services in our public facilities. Like in EFF, it's very articulative. So if Africa is borderless, we say all those people that are here in South Africa, be it the legals or illegals ones, they must come with a passport. They must be documented from where they are coming from. If you are a Zimbabwean, you must have all the documents from Zimbabwe. You come here in South Africa, you become a permitted citizen of South Africa. Like what they are doing in Europe. People from Europe, they can travel all over the countries around Europe without any restriction. That's what the EFF is struggling for. And I think if we can able to achieve that, Africa can be free. It's not like we are competing with our African brothers because we know the struggles. They are not here because they want to. It's because of the colonization.
Nkululeko, do you think that the party is still taking a beating for that position of a borderless Africa?
Yes, ma'am. In terms of the voter numbers, because people, they don't understand why as an economic freedom fighter we are saying we want the borderless Africa. People think that we want to open up so that the criminals can come in and terrorize us. No, we are saying borderless because the colonizers have made it in our minds to say that we are different. Like here in Jozini, like I'm coming in Jozini, there's Swaziland and Mozambique. We are in a place called Umhlabialingana. So Umhlabialingana, there are 3 different countries in one place. I can able to travel to Mozambique. Mozambique is just next to my home. It's just separated by Pongola River. And then Swaziland is next to my home. It's separated by a few hills and mountains. There's no border. There's nothing. There are no soldiers. The border is the gate. That's what Julius Malema was saying. They only created the road to drive towards the gate. But in between, there's nothing. There's no fence. There's nothing. The border there's no border.
Okay.
So, yes, that's what I'm saying.
Okay,
so
Mkhuleko. We're going to have to leave it there. Ejozini, it's time for your latest news headlines.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, the global youth empowerment movement, Count Me In, has called for an urgent and complete overhaul of the country's current spaza shop regulatory framework. The movement advocates for reforms in the spaza shops industry. The DA is opposed to the possible sale or lease of the Pretoria City Hall to the Iranian embassy. This follows reports that the city of Tshwane received a letter from the embassy expressing interest to acquire a municipal building or land for the establishment of a cultural center. And a study has warned that the number of people with liver cancer can nearly double worldwide by 2050 unless more is done to avoid contributory factors, which include obesity and alcohol consumption. I'll have details on these and other stories at 10.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
Hi, Cathy. I did think a while ago that maybe we could use the army and army bases to house witnesses. The thing is, then they don't end up having a life. And can we trust the army? There is always the option of private security, but can we trust them? I highly suspect most witnesses will end up going into exile.
Morning, Katie. What about those people who left ANC and joined other parties, but when they were there in ANC, they were corrupt? Now they're throwing stones to ANC. What are they trying to do to South African citizens? They think we are politically illiterate just because they want to regain power and eat again. Thank you, Katie.
Good morning, Cathy, and good morning to SAFM listeners. Cathy, maybe Kamlon Vela will answer this. Maybe he will call in and answer. You still remember while Jacob Zuma was the president, they want to remove him. And then DA was asking for a secret pilot. Zuma didn't want it. Or ANC. Now the same people from MK, they were coming from the ANC, the same Zuma want a secret pilot against Ramaphosa. Zuma told the DA, you don't have numbers. So why you need numbers now? MK don't have numbers. Why they need numbers now for a secret pilot paper? But people of MK, they are very rude on social media. You pose that question, they will swear at you, even at your mother. Everything. Dango!
Yeah, it is quite interesting to see how some political parties respond to some of these issues when they're on the other end of the spectrum. I still today cannot get over how for so many years the DA campaigned against blue lights. Do you remember how long the DA campaigned against blue lights for? And yet today their ministers are the ones also using blue lights. It just, I can never get over it. It baffles the mind. I just think, then what was it all about? What was it all about? Jock, you are calling us from Durban. Good morning.
Good morning, Cathy, to you and your team for an excellent show. Cathy, I had two comments to make. Sarcastically, I want to start off by saying, so the DA and the other opposition teams, they're always right about the ANC in terms of how they protect their own and not protect the citizens of the country. I know that's a big apple to swallow for everybody, but it's just a comment on my side. And the other thing that I wanted to comment about, I do agree with you about the famine that's happening in Palestine. But I find it's very, very hypocritical of us as South Africans to say that, or Africans to say that, in a different continent when the Ethiopians, the DRC, the Congo, the Congolese, all these different countries, including Mozambique, when they have the storms or cyclones that come through, that we don't bat an eye. They never make the news, and they are African people. So are we more African, or are we more in terms of seeing people of different ethnicities differently? And the other thing is that because the Palestinian and the Israeli war is more of a religious war, we can never solve that issue itself because it's between two religious factions. So I would say that I agree with you completely, but I'd say we shouldn't turn an eye to the African people of Africa first for us to help them first, and not to forget about their plight, because there's millions of people in Africa that are suffering every single day, including South Africans, which we just turn a blind eye for and don't worry about where their next plate of food is.
Yeah, look, I guess, Jock, on the one hand of it, it also has to do with where newsrooms are able to send people and where they're able to actually do coverage. But it certainly doesn't mean that there aren't any efforts, especially when you talk about some of the problems that we face on the continent, you know, whether you're looking at South Sudan and some of the other examples that you have given. And that's really the power of being able to have media report live from the ground on some of these, whether it's humanitarian crises, whether it's conflicts, because the minute that those stories are not being told, there then is also a veil of silence that is allowed to brew over what is happening. And it's part of why I think that the media globally needs to be supported, financially so, because newsrooms are running out of money, and that's why we just don't have coverage. Worse so, even on the continent. You know about the concept of parachute journalism, right? Where there'll be a crisis or a war taking place in Africa, and then, you'll have your international media send a reporter to come and report on what's happening, and then suddenly it has the eye of the world. But why can't we do that for ourselves? What prevents us from doing that for ourselves?
Cathy, I'm too old to understand what it means, but the concept of what I understand by, it's just to get clout. So in terms of what you think is in terms of similar, it's just to get the acknowledgement of the people to start viewing the channels because of the news. But I'm saying to you that, yes, I understand. And what you're saying about journalism being funded privately as well, I agree with you completely, because sometimes the stories don't necessarily bring viewership, but it needs to being brought to the fore to say that, okay, let us not worry about these people immediately. That is important. It is something that needs to be done. But our problems within our country are urgent because it's towards our citizens. I don't feel that there's anything wrong by putting ourselves first as South Africans, sorting out our problems and going forward. And my analogy to that one would be, whenever we take a flight on an airline, it says that, if we're fortunate enough to actually do that, the first thing the stewardess will tell you, or stewardess will tell you, is that please secure your masks first, make sure you are okay, and then assist the passengers next to you. So I'm saying to you, the same procedure would suit us fine, because we in the situation politically with the country is because the citizens themselves have a voice in singular motions, like now with your show, but we don't band together across the cultural divide. And what the gentleman about the EFF said is correct. Why can't we, if we can't see borders within Africa, why do we see cultural differences as borders within our society, which is what South Africa has not sorted out, and is the issue of why the politics currently now is leading us to a path where there could be war, or there could be unrest or misunderstandings that lead to further damage in our country, which we don't really need at this point in time in the world that's currently out.
Jock, let me thank you for your contribution out in Durban. Debochel, you are in Memel. Good morning.
Morning, Cathy. Cathy, let me shoot you quickly. Cathy, what I'm saying is that I'm asking, I don't know whether they are listening, the presidency, to assist the president, to advise the president to strengthen communication ties with the people of South Africa, with the ordinary people of South Africa. Why I'm saying that, Cathy? The president Sometimes we used to call so-called a family meeting, and he will talk to them. He just drop the statement and talk to what is going to happen is 1, 2, 3. Then after everything is quiet. So he must call the press conference and allow the journalists to ask questions on our behalf as we are the ordinary South Africans, because the journalists are more and more attached to us than our politicians that we have voted for. I think the president must try to change that thing to call the press conference and expect. There are many burning issues that are happening in this country. So to mislead the people is very simple. But the president must allow the journalists to ask questions. You know why Donald Trump is so popular? I used to watch this media broadcast with CNN and Fox. He gives them a chance. He always gives them a chance to ask questions. Then he will respond. But what is happening here in South Africa, not only President Ramaphosa, even his predecessors, they were doing the very same thing. They will just talk, then the country. Maybe the journalists will find an opportunity
So
to ask questions in funerals and so forth. So the family meeting must allow the journalists to ask questions. This is what I'm saying. They will leave no stone unturned. Because, Cathy, we've got serious burning issues. Your coup d'etat, possible coup d'etat, we're very concerned about that. Our relations with USA, many people, they will lose their job. If you get what I'm saying. But the president must come up with a plan and tell the nation and allow the journalists
do you feel that the president's voice is generally missing from our society?
Come again, please.
I'm asking you, do you feel the president's voice is missing from our society?
My line is not clear. I don't hear what you're saying, Cathy.
Oh, okay. All right. No, I think I'm going to leave it there. If you're struggling to hear me, that's fine. But I think you've made the point around how we need more from the president, how we need him to take us into his confidence. So this is what I was alluding to earlier on in the show, where a part of the report back given by the president in as far as the State Capture Commission of Inquiry is concerned, or the Zondo Commission, the president said 48% of Zondo's recommendations had been implemented, and that they were still working on the rest of those recommendations. 23%, the presidency said, are on track, and 29% are delayed but are receiving attention. The president, however, did not talk about those that are in office today that are part of that list of implicated individuals. Joseph, you're in the South Coast. Good morning.
Thanks, Sis Kate. How are you?
Good, Joseph. Go for it.
Thank you, Sis Katie. Just a quick one. Out of that Mr. Zondo's commission, as you just alluded now, 40% of the job has been done. But I just want to know how many people are in jail that were called and they found that they are guilty. Secondly, it's quite disturbing, Sis Katie, knowing that so many people in our country are suffering, especially in the rural areas. While we're still talking about people from Africa, we must accommodate them. They are here in the country. Firstly, you and I, we put food on the table for our families. You and I are taxed by the government. Are these people from outside contributing to our families, to our lives on daily basis? No. Now, it's quite disturbing whereby...
In what way do you believe they're not contributing, Joseph?
They're contributing by the drugs that are full up in the country, spaza shops that are full up in the country. We don't know where they pay the tax. I do not know myself.
That's part of the picture, Joseph. It's certainly not the entire picture, because ultimately those that do work, that do have jobs, are contributing to the economy of this country.
I'm not sure about that, Sis Kathy, but our government must also make sure that they start with our people. Our people come first. When it's time for elections, they don't go to our brothers from Africa or sisters. They start with us. Why should they want our vote locally if then we are not important to them? Because as I speak, the president that is currently with us is far away from us. Is not connected to us. Even the day he called the country whereby the Mkhwanasi made those revelations, you could see in his face that this one is not connected. He doesn't care. He's just saying what he's saying. That's it. Take it or leave it. That's the president we are living right now. People are suffering. Media don't go to rural areas and see how bad it is in this country. Those things are not seen on TV because it's people that are out there. They are not been taken care of. They only wait for 1,000 rand or 350 come end of the month of the 5th of the 7th. Who takes care of those people? Not
Joseph,
people from Africa.
What would the president need to do to at least convince somebody like you that he is in touch with this country, that he is in touch with the needs and the complaints of the people of this country?
On that day, I was expecting him to that, okay, thank you, Mr. Mkhwanasi. We have heard it all. We will do a proper investigation. But also, I would like you all to come and present yourself on that commission. Secondly, I am sorry so much, being the head of the country, that such revelations are coming from my country as being a president of the country. Thirdly, I'm sorry to the citizens of this country that so many bad things have happened while I'm still head of this country. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph. Sure,
thank you, Cathy.
That's quite powerful because it speaks to accountability, right? Taking accountability, taking responsibility as a leader, and being able to show empathy in a moment like that and recognize what the impact of even just a SAPS that is at war with itself, what the impact of that means for the lives of ordinary South Africans. We'll take a quick break. I'm back with more of your calls. It's still the open line. 086 000 2032 is the number to dial. On the WhatsApp voice note line, 0614 104 107.
Hey, want to check your TV license balance conveniently? Look no further. Our SMS service allows you to do just that. By sending a message containing your ID or TV license number to 44210, you can quickly access your balance without needing multiple inquiries or waiting on hold. Plus, standard SMS rates apply. Take advantage of this efficient method to stay informed and streamline your payment process today. T's and C's apply.
Hear the rhythm, feel the heat at the Imbaula Music Festival in partnership with SAFM, where music, culture and community come alive. Join us on the 2nd of August 2025 at Pretoria Botanical Gardens from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. to vibe to Sanal musician Calvin Momo, Amanda Black, Zing Lumalo, Trompis and many more. More than just music. Share stories, spark change, and unite against gender-based violence. Grab your tickets at imbaula.co.za. Brought to you by SAFM and SABC1. Hear the rhythm, feel the heat. Imbaula. The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
We're listening to The Talking Point. This is your National Roundtable as we continue to lead our conversations that move us. Chaka, you're calling us from Bloom. Good morning.
Good morning, Cathy. Cathy, one of your callers, I think it's a joke, called the Palestinian-Israel conflict as a religious war. You know, that's the kind of propaganda that is being fed to most people, that, you know, it's a Muslim versus the Zionist or the Jews. That war there, or conflict, it's a colonial conflict. You know, that's what I wanted to clarify. It's somebody coming from Eastern Europe and coming to take the indigenous people's land and obviously oppressing them and killing them. It has been happening since 1948 when Britain, through the Balfour Declaration, when the entire the Western countries, Britain, United States, all the Western countries, as usual, the usual genociders, gave the land to Israel. And then, of course, the Palestinians accepted the ships of the Jews that came from Germany. They welcomed them and gave them accommodation and treated them well, only to find that after a while they turn against the Palestinians and kill them. But coming to the question of hunger and starvation, UNRWA is a United Nations organization that has been feeding Palestinians in Gaza and in the West Bank and so on. This thing is all over. It's not just, it's worse in Gaza, but the starvation in West Bank, the starvation on all Palestinian areas. UNRWA was displaced as an impartial because Israel made propaganda that UNRWA was politically involved. It was a smear campaign. What subsequently happened is that they formed United States and Israel formed what is called the Palestinian humanitarian aid organization. The aim of the Palestinian humanitarian aid organization, there is nothing humanitarian about it. What they do is that when the aid trucks are supposed to be allowed to go in, a trickle of them are allowed to go in. And what happens is that when the Palestinians go to those trucks to go and get famine assistance, get some food there, the IDF, the Israel Defense Force, ambush them and shoot them with assault rifles. It happens all the time. Over 500, I think it's about 800 people that have been killed by assault rifles on their way to get
fetching
food.
aid. Yeah,
irrespective of the age, you send a 5-year-old child to go there. That child was shot with an assault rifle. This Palestinian humanitarian organization is a criminal organization sponsored by America and Israel. Its aim is genocide. There's nothing humanitarian about that.
Okay.
This is part of genocide. This starvation is part of genocide. It's an aim to kill all the Palestinians, not just in Gaza, in the whole of Israel. But the problem now is that a lot of Christians support Israel because on a mistaken belief that Israel is a chosen nation. Therefore, it can never be guilty of anything. A chosen nation can never be guilty of murder. It can never be guilty of killing anyone. So the Christians are part of the package of supporting. All the international Christians are part of this genocide as well, because they support Israel, they support the United States. All the Americans.
Look, Chaka, I don't think that it's true to say all Christians globally support Israel. But I also think that this conflict is one that is multifaceted. You might believe that, religion should not be considered as a factor here, but the truth is that it's ethnic, it's national, it's historical, and it is very much religious. And all of those things can be true at the same time.
Yeah, but the thing is, the only reason, okay, I understand, that conflict there, it's not a religious conflict. But when it comes to Christians solely support Israel. They call it the majority of it. They solely support Israel because they are a chosen nation. A very mistaken concept. Because those people are coming from Eastern Europe.
Okay,
and
Chaka.
they're not. Yeah.
Okay, let's leave it there. Chaka out and Bloom. You've had your say, but I still maintain I don't think it's true to make that assumption that Christians the world over absolutely take a stance of automatically being in support of Israel in this instance. Sandile, you're in KZN. Good morning.
Morning, Mrs. Katie. How are you doing this morning?
Good, sir.
Well, I'm not good at all. I'm having a sleepless night here, Katie, with the issue of corruption that is happening at the testing station.
What's happening, Sandile?
The corruption that is actually happening at the testing station. where you actually, as a candidate driver, you go there and supposed to be getting your driver's license, and you need to pay a bribery to get a driver's license. Doesn't matter how good you are in driving, but you still need to pay a bribery. I've raised this issue many a times, and it seems as if nobody is actually willing or interested in addressing this issue. I remember that at one time I raised this issue with Tulasize, and I requested that maybe the minister is invited to tell us what are they doing to cap this thing that is actually happening. Because there are people who do not have money to pay this bribery. Because the bribery, if you go to Mkondi at Pietermaritzburg, you pay about 1,500 rand. On top of the money that you would have paid for your driver's license, when you're applying for a driver's license. The truck and everything. So on top of that, you pay 1,500 rand. And I've raised this many a times, and I do not know why our government is silent on this. Because, in terms of the policy formulation, we say that by doing nothing, you are also formulating a policy. So this means that we have actually formulated a policy of paying a bribery to get a driver's license in South Africa. And why our government has allowed that to happen. Because we have been raising this matter.
Sandile, and the unfortunate thing is that I don't even think that this is something that the minister would necessarily be the right person to deal with. This is criminality. It needs the involvement of law enforcement officials. But what is often apparent is that these officials have created an economic system for themselves, of which they thrive. And because they know nobody's going to come and arrest them, they know that. They know they're not going to go to jail for anything. They know they're not going to stand trial for anything, which is why even a minister can go and say whatever that, she wants to say, because Barbara Creese is the transport minister now. She can go and say whatever she wants to say. And when she leaves, things continue as they were.
I hear what you are saying, Mrs. Katie, but my point is here, why are they not actually putting measures? Because this thing has been raised many times. They need to put measures in place so that they can try to cap this thing.
Yeah,
because
I'm thinking about, Sandile, the approach that Johannesburg did when they moved from the walk-ins to the online system, right, where you now go and you book your date online. That was an attempt to try and curb corruption. I don't think it has been successful. Do you think people are still not being charged to get their license?
But if that measure is not working, why are they not actually looking for other measures, Katie? Because I think there are many ways of dealing with such things. Because really, this thing has been happening for years. And you can't tell me that something like this that has been happening for years, they've tried only one measure to cap it. No, I don't think that we are serious. I don't think that we are serious. And people are struggling out there. There are people who are not even working, and they are made to pay these bribes to get the driver's license. There are people who are being sent to get driver's license by the Gogos and the Mkulus. And these people are actually expected to pay these 1,500 rand. Where are they going to be getting these 1,500 rand?
Yeah.
So I think we need to do something. This thing is exhausting me. It is killing me. Sandile, I don't know.
I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying, until people get arrested, the message is not going to be sent that this is a criminal offense that the state takes seriously. That is what emboldens people to continue doing it the way that they do at every level, because there it's not even one that necessarily one should blame the president for. It is what is happening at the testing station level and their little factions at that station, because everybody knows which group they belong to, where when the money comes, who gets it, who must this, who must that. So this is something that until the police get involved, it is going to continue to happen. That is the unfortunate state of affairs. And it steals the opportunity from so many people, because having a license unlocks so much economic opportunity for one, even if you're just in the job market. But Sandile, we'll have to leave it there. It's time for the latest news.
In our top stories, calls for reform of spaza shop regulations and DA against turning Pretoria City Hall into Iranian Cultural Centre. Good morning. The global youth empowerment movement, Count Me In, has called for an urgent and complete overhaul of the country's current spaza shop regulatory framework. The movement advocates for reforms in the spaza shop industry. It has launched a campaign to reform the regulations it believes disadvantage local entrepreneurs. The movement's chairperson, Spongile Mpanza.
You have to go a certificate of health. You have to get the certificate of fire. You had to get the certificate of zoning, which makes it very difficult because all those departments, they have also the fees that are charged for you to comply with them, which makes it very difficult for people who are not even making any money for on the operations of their spazas. So it makes it very difficult also because you have to move from one area to the next area. It seems like the very laws are still used while the way people live today is different from that time.
The DA is opposed to the possible sale or lease of the Pretoria City Hall to the Iranian embassy. This follows reports that the city of Tshwane received a letter from the embassy expressing interest to acquire a municipal building or land for the establishment of a cultural centre. The building would include a museum, library and handcraft shops. The DA's Tshwane caucus leader, Celia Brink, has questioned the benefit of the centre to South Africans.
The DA is not at all opposed to some kind of partnership to refurbish and revive the City Hall, but we would far prefer a partnership which is available, I am quite sure, that sees the City Hall being used by the city or for some purpose related to the South African people, instead of a cultural centre of a foreign government, regardless of who that foreign government is. And I also want to emphasize that if you read that letter from Iran to the city of Tshwane that's been circulated, they want to repurpose those assets for an Iranian cultural center, which doesn't serve the purpose of the South African people.
The Council for the Advancement of the South African Constitution says the Commission of Inquiry, recently established by President Cyril Ramaphosa, appears to have started its work in earnest. The Commission is tasked to investigate the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner, Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi's allegations of corruption among senior police officials. The Commission's chairperson, Justice Mbuyiseli Matlanga, told the media yesterday they might need more than the assigned 6 months, with an interim report expected in 3 months. The Executive Director, Lawson Naidu.
Well, I thought it was a very useful briefing. It gave us a sense of where the Commission is at. They've hit the ground running. Justice Matlanga said that they've already commenced with their work. They're awaiting the promulgation of the regulations that will go together with the terms of reference that were gazetted last week. And the Commission will also have to establish its own rules for the inquiry itself, which will pertain to how witnesses are approached. But I think we do have a sense that a lot of work has already commenced behind the scenes.
4 men arrested in connection with the murder of Oupa Sifoka, popularly known as DJ Somebody, are expected back in the Alexandra Magistrates Court in northern Johannesburg today. The accused include businessman Cathy Mohlahlana, who's expected to apply for bail. The accused were arrested in Gauteng last week when they made their first court appearance. They are facing charges of murder, conspiracy to commit murder and possession of unlicensed firearms. DJ Somebody was killed in a hail of bullets in Hoodmead in November of 2022. 2 other people were killed in the same incident. Rifilwe Mekwa reports.
All 4 suspects, aged between 45 and 60, have been in police custody and are expected to appear in court. 3 of the 4 accused are believed to be hitmen, while 1 allegedly ordered the hit on the DJ. Meanwhile, police previously disclosed that the same firearms used in the murder of DJ Somebody have been linked to other high-profile cases.
And finally, a study has warned that the number of people with liver cancer will nearly double worldwide by 2050 unless more is done to avoid contributory factors. They include obesity, alcohol consumption and hepatitis. The study has also found that 3 out of 5 cases of liver cancer can be prevented. The BBC's Bernadette Kio has the details.
The research by an international team of experts, published in the Lancet Medical Journal, predicts new cases of liver cancer will rise to more than 1.5 million a year from the current level of 870,000. The proportion of cases linked to obesity is set to increase from 5 to 11%, and some 21% of liver cancers will be caused by alcohol by mid-century. The researchers are calling on countries to do more to tackle the risk factors, saying there's urgent need for global action.
Recapping the top story, the global youth empowerment movement, Count Me In, has called for an urgent and complete overhaul of the country's current spaza shop regulatory framework. The movement advocates for reforms in the spaza shop industry. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. Because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations from Wednesday, the 23rd of July for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. All on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC. The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
All right, it's 9 after 10 o'clock. Welcome to the second hour of The Talking Point. Coming up in this hour, we're talking finance with Brian Hirsch. Today being the last Tuesday of the month, Brian is going to be dealing with all of the questions that you have been sending throughout the month that we have not been able to get to, and especially questions that you have been sending directly to that radio line that he shares with us every Tuesday. Before we get into the finance segment, let's take some of your voice notes from the open line.
Hi, Cathy. This is Mandy from 4As. On the issue of this corruption or bribery at licensing stations, have they ever tried body cams, perhaps? Maybe that's another intervention that can actually explore. Thank you.
Hey, Cathy, on the issue of driver's license, you know, when I tell people that I did not pay a cent to get my driver's license, they do not believe me. I failed my driver's license 3 times at Langlaagte. And when trying to find out why am I failing, I was told, Guti, I must pay 6,800 rands. And that time I was still very young. I think I was maybe 23 years old. And then I tell my dad that angifanele ngibhadale 6.8. My dad said, ay, mina nginayo lo mali buye ekhaya. And I went back home ezilalini. Went back home. Ngafike ngangena testing, ngaphasa i-driver's license. Azangibhadale ngisho i-cent, Cathy. So lento le, it's continued because someone is feeding it. Thanks, it's Bonky here.
Good morning, Cathy. Thank you so much for your show. What Joseph has articulated is quite right, because it's a question of showing humility on the side of the people that are really leading us, not just to be aloof so as to gain the confidence of the people, because the government is there for the purpose of bringing safety and order. Thank you so much. Joseph has nailed it. I really concur with him.
Morning, Cathy. I tend to agree most of what Jock said. We as South Africans, there's poverty, there's lots of issues here. I hear what you say by the news reader, the journalists are focusing on that, because that story, they like that story, right? South Africa, let's start from South Africa. There's lots of poverty, crime, murder, rape, all the stuff. Africa is same. Why are we not focusing on Africa, our own people first and the other? Let's be fair, because there are lots of people in our country are helping people. So let us get our domestic issues sorted out. But good show, Cathy. God bless you. It's Daniel Durban.
Hi, Kathy. How are you? The listeners there also. Kathy, I've done undercover work for obtaining a license without writing, without writing, and also going through the polls, and then you get the license. I've done it for more than 5 different people. Yes, and then, I've done it. It's possible. People get license without even knowing signs and driving. So I've done it. I always like to test things and know how things are working, how corruptible they are. Yeah, it's true. People are getting license without even knowing signs, knowing how to drive. Yes, thank you.
Chasing the Sun is a 5-part South African sport documentary series. An inspiring story of the 4-time World Rugby champions, the Springboks. The journey of winning the Rugby World Cup, a behind-the-scenes look of how the green and gold team overcame adversity, divisions, and doubt to become world champs. Be there when history shines. Tune into SABC2 on Sundays at 7:30 p.m. from 13 July to 10 August. Also available anytime, anywhere on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
You are listening to SFM Radio this Mandela Month.
It is in your hands now.
Talking Finance with Brian Hirsch, making sense of your finance.
Brian Hirsch, another month gone by and winter is still amongst us. The fact that we're both wearing coats says that it's still very, very cold.
3 Sundays to go. 3 Sundays to go, and you'll then be taking off your coats and you'll be starting to enjoy summer.
Oh, I forget that you actually keep a calendar of the change of season, hey?
Yeah, and I was and remember, I last week I predicted petrol prices would come down.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Petrol prices come down. Although I see the rand is weakened a little bit, dollar strengthened overnight. So we'll just have to see. But we've got quite a week ahead of us. We've got the 1st of August when tariffs will be announced, and at the moment the indications are that we're going to be paying tariffs, and also AGOA And I've got some good questions on that this morning. So many people are asking, they don't really understand what this is all about, how it affects them.
Yeah, and I think that will be a good place for us to start with, Brian. Remember that we'll deal with some of the questions that you've sent on Brian's radio line. We'll then also just take questions that you put through on the studio line, 086 000 2032. That's the number to dial to reach our studio, 086 000 2032. And on the WhatsApp line for your text messages or even your WhatsApp voice notes, 0614 104 107. I see some of your questions have started to come through. And remember, you have carte blanche for a session like today, because there isn't just one topic or theme that we're covering, but it really just is your opportunity to ask Brian questions that you have wanted answers to. So, Brian, we've got AGOA there as the top of the list in as far as questions are concerned. People want to know, what is AGOA all about and who benefits from AGOA?
Well, AGOA stands for the African Growth and Opportunities Act. It's a U.S. law that allows certain African countries to export goods to the United States without paying import taxes. That's what's called tariffs, because we'll deal with that separately. All African countries benefit from AGOA. South African businesses, car makers, wine farms, fruit exporters, and a few other industries. And workers in Africa, AGOA supports millions of jobs across the continent. And US companies and consumers, they get cheaper goods from Africa and build ties with African suppliers. Who will be affected if it's not renewed? All African exporters that have to pay high US tariffs against making their goods now more expensive and less competitive in the used market. Remember, the US dollar is also weakened, so therefore for America to import from countries certainly that have weaker currency is also going to cost more. South African industries like automotive, BMW, Ford, they export to America under the AGOA system. Wine and fruit farmers, textile and clothing manufacturers. So thousands of jobs could be lost, especially in sectors that rely on exports to the USA. And for US buyers, prices of some imported goods may rise, or they may switch to buying from other regions. And that's what Trump's trying to do. He's trying to make America great by making it more expensive to import into America, so American companies will start to manufacture. But American companies aren't set to manufacture. I mean, the principle may be sound, but the actual application is absolutely unsound, because companies aren't ready. And how are these companies going to then actually start manufacturing, build factories? It takes years. So what's going to happen is that it's going to be costly, and that's going to cost the Americans more. They're not going to be happy about that. So AGOA is like what they call a VIP trade pass from US to African countries. And if it goes away, African goods become more expensive in America, and business and workers in South Africa could suffer.
We're talking about the 1st of August, Brian, which is literally the end of the week.
Yeah.
The way in which the announcement came about, yes, there were very much those warning signals earlier on in the year at the first announcement or instance of trade tariffs that was, subsequently withdrawn. But it's now back, and back with greater certainty. Industries may have had an opportunity to try and factor in, well, what do we do if these tariffs go ahead? But realistically, if you're looking at, some of, let's say, your citrus producers, etc., is there anything that people, that these companies can do right now that can help cushion some of the blow? Because I imagine that, production on this scale is not something that takes place over a month or even a couple of months. It takes place months and years ahead of time.
Cathy, you're absolutely right. And so now what statements are made by government is they're now looking to other markets where they could maybe, but there's no guarantee. They're looking to those markets, and there's no guarantee how competitive we're going to be. And there's no guarantee that they won't need to be forced to put tariffs on to protect their own local industries. You know, we are exporting to America products that is important to the American, and therefore we're getting the benefit, and other African countries as well. So we are looking to see how do you make up what you may have lost because you're no longer competitive. The big worry for South Africans is loss of jobs. I mean, if we're not able to do that, people will lose their jobs, and that'll just make matters worse. But the tariffs that he's threatened on at this point in time, unless we negotiate strongly, but I don't know, I don't know whether you can read what the press says. I think I've mentioned before the Tony O'Reilly story. I'll just mention it briefly again. Tony O'Reilly was a famous newspaper man in the UK. He owned most of the newspapers, The Sun, and he came out of his building one evening without a newspaper, and he walked off across the road to a newspaper vendor, and he wanted to buy a paper. He gave the guy £1, and the vendor walked off. And he said, "Hey, where's my change?" And they said, "No change, sir." He said, "Don't be ridiculous. Do you know who I am?" I said, "Yes, you're the boss of all the newspapers." He said, "And look here in the newspaper." And he pointed to the newspaper, and it said 50p, not £1. And the vendor said to him, "Sir, don't believe everything you read in newspapers." So the point I'm making, we're seeing headlines this whole week. Last night, the Star was full of all the things that are going to happen. We don't know exactly what's going to happen, but I can tell you, if these tariffs come in 30%, this makes South African products actually, at the moment, they're much cheaper and more competitive. We will lose that competitive edge. We'll be subject to the standard US tariff schedule. Most favored nations will fall away. That means high import duties. That means, again, we may not be competitive, and so we need to be concerned. The industries most effective, I've said already, automotive, agriculture, wine, clothing. Now we talk about steel and aluminium. South Africa exports various metal products and raw materials to the US. The impact of a 30% increase could make exports unviable, leading to a drop in industries. If we're exporting less, let's talk what happens to the rand. The rand weakens. That is inflationary. So there's a lot of work to be done. I know there's a lot being done behind the scenes, but what is going to be done by the 1st of August? Will there be a further delay? There's that statement that TACO, they said they say Trump is TACO. TACO stands for Trump always chickens out. He doesn't like to be accused of always chickening out. So what stance is he going to take? And then let me just share with you one of the other questions I've also received at the same time with all these questions is what is the balance of trade? Now, there's the balance of payments, which includes imports and exports and includes money coming in, money going out. That's tourism and people going overseas. But the balance of trade is goods versus services a country sells to other countries. And if you're exporting more than you're importing, that means you've got more money coming into the country as compared to us buying from overseas. If you've got more, you've got a surplus. If you've got a surplus, the government can work with that surplus. But if your balance of trade goes out of sync and you're importing more than you're exporting. So think about it. You're bringing in more goods, and think about the goods we bring in. We bring in oil, we bring in pharmaceutical goods, and if we're spending more, then no doubt our rand will weaken. If our rand weakens, what are the inflationary effects? So it's serious what's going on, and we haven't heard much. Today's the 29th. We've got 2 days before these tariffs come in. So, we want to make sure that all these things can happen. So that's really a little bit of economics for our listeners, but I've tried to bring it down to the level that you can understand. If AGOA goes away, if we're importing more than we're exporting, it's definitely going to affect our rand. We've seen our rand move up from a low or a high of 17.53 last week, and you're going to read it out in a moment, but around about 17.92. It already means the oil price has ticked up a little bit. It already means that things are starting to cost us more because we bring in a lot of goods that we have to pay for.
Oh, and how much more can we take is the question, how much more can we take?
Cathy, just one point about that. Remember, we're not alone. Trump has imposed these tariffs. with a goer we are because it means so much to us, and we are not very popular in terms of many areas in America. Although the Democrats are trying to cushion what Trump is saying about South Africa and what we've done and what we haven't done. So we've got our own problems that we've got to contend with.
Yeah.
We're not seen in a good light at the moment. We're not, although the session with Trump and Ramaphosa seemed to be okay. I don't think we've made much progress.
It doesn't look like we've moved much post that session, in as far as the Americans are concerned. Okay, Brian, this is an important question. The difference between savings and investments, because I think often we refer to the two as being the same. If you've got investments, then you say, no, I've got some savings, but then you might be referring to investments. Or you don't have investments and you have savings, but yeah. Why does the difference matter?
The reason I get it, because I get emails from people and phone calls, people wanting to save and people wanting to invest. And then I asked them, do you know the difference? And I've raised it many times on this program. There's a big difference. When you're making investments, you're looking for long-term growth. When you're looking for long-term growth, you need to understand you need to take some risk, because the two assets that provide long-term growth are equities and property. And it's not like a straight line that they just go up like money in a bank account. So the difference between investing is you're taking on risk, but if you take on risk long-term, if you buy quality companies, quality properties long-term, you will do well, but you need time. You need time in the investment, and you need to iron out all the volatility and the ups and downs. So I would say investments minimum term, 5 years. Thinking correctly would probably be 7 to 10 years and longer. When you're looking at savings, think of savings. Why are you saving? Are you saving to put a deposit down on a home? Are you saving for education? Are you saving for an event? Are you saving for a car? And that's money you're going to use, and you don't want to take any risk on that. You want certainty and security. And that's where I talk about savings for 1 to 3 years. So can you get your thinking right? When you want to invest, understand 5 years upwards. When you want to save, it's because I want to save for an event or an action. Therefore, I need certainty and security, and I cannot afford. And at the moment, if you put money away for a year or two, and you're getting somewhere between 8.5% and 10%, government 5-year, 2-year retail bonds paying 9.5%, certain, yes, you may pay tax, but you've got certainty. You won't find any money lost. You put 100,000 away for 2 years, you'll get back about 120,000 rand. 100,000 you put into the market, you could find at the end of 2 years it's only worth 90 or 80,000 because markets have dropped, and that's why you need that time horizon.
So does it mean that when it comes to the approach to savings, it doesn't necessarily equal a return on investment? You've put the money away that you can use for whatever purpose, but there are no guarantees on what you're going to get out.
Investment has no guarantees.
Yes.
Investments is risk. And when I say risk, I'm not saying, if you'd put 100,000 away in January this year, on the 2nd of April, it was worth 84,000 rand. It's today worth 120,000 rand in that 3-month period. But that's what I talk about volatility.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for savings and you've done that, you would have been a very unhappy camper. So understand, savings, I look at it 1 to 3 years, certainty and security, putting money away for long term. You're looking for growth and you have to wait. It's time. You need time and you need those investments to grow.
Okay. I want to start bringing in questions. Gary, I'm looking at the time. I think it might be better to take you after the latest news headlines. So I'm just going to park you for a bit, Gary, and you'll be the first caller that we attend to. Let me take this question for you, Brian, because I think the other questions are a bit more comprehensive. We'll need more time. This listener wants to know about the MTN Zakhele shares. He bought them in 2016, and now he hears that they are unwinding the structure and delisting from the JSE.
Yeah, I did comment on it last year sometime. Let me get back to you on that. Let me answer that next Tuesday. I don't know what has happened since I reported back last year, but MTN Zakhele please listen next Tuesday. I'll respond.
Okay, on that note, it brings us to 10:30. Time for your latest news headlines.
Thank you, Cathy. On the news headlines on SAFM, I am on Dilambana and a very good morning. A power supply disruption has prompted the Roodepoort Magistrates Court in Western Johannesburg to adjourn briefly. It is expected to deliver judgment in the bail application of the woman accused of killing her 11-year-old son, Jaden Lee Meek. The case of 4 suspects arrested in connection with the killing of Oba Sefuka, popularly known as DJ Somebody, and 2 of his bodyguards has been postponed at the Alexandra Magistrates Court in Johannesburg. And the global youth empowerment movement Count Me In has called on for an urgent and complete overhaul of the country's current sponsorship regulatory framework. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
This July, journey beyond the horizon with Chasing the Sun. 5 mesmerizing episodes every Sunday at 7:30 on SABC2 from 13 July to 10 August. Feel the thrill of the adventure, the power of discovery, and stories that light up the skies. Missed an episode? No worries. Stream anytime, anywhere on SABC Plus. No subscription required. Chasing the Sun. Your Sunday nights just got brighter. Tune in to SABC2, Sundays at 7:30 or watch on SABC Plus on demand.
For the love of the game.
With the ever-changing financial landscape, it can be difficult to make sense of all the moves at times. Join me, Jimmy Moyaha, on the SAFM Market Update with MoneyWeb, Mondays to Thursdays, 6 to 7 p.m, as we break down the key market trends, top financial stories, and smart investment insights, all in one place. It's everything you need to stay financially informed and ahead of the curve.
Talking Finance with Brian Hirsch, making sense of your finance.
All right, we continue our finance segment with Brian. Gary, you're in Bloem. Good morning to you. Okay, it looks like we've just lost Gary on the line. Sorry, Gary, we'll try to call you back. George, you're in Soweto. Good morning.
Morning, George.
Morning. How are you, Sis Cathy and Brian?
Yeah, having a good day. Very energized. Go ahead with your question.
Yes. Brian, I just wanted to find out something. I've got around 800,000, which is in cash in the bank. I was investing at Absa the last time in Dynamic, which is I was getting about 9 point something. Now the market has dropped down. So how can you advise me? Where can I invest my 800,000?
Okay. It appears to me that you were actually drawing the income from this investment. So my question to you is, do you require income? Are you looking for long-term growth, or are you looking for a combination?
No, I was not getting income from it. I'm okay with the income. I've got income somewhere. I just want to invest maybe for a year or so.
Okay. So now when you talk about investing, I just commented the difference between saving and investment. The minute you say 1 year, you don't want to take any chance. And markets go up and down in that 1 year. There isn't a year that I can remember in my entire career that the markets haven't had an up and a down in the same year at different times. So when you say 1 year, you're saying to me, no, I'm not a long-term investor. I want to invest my money for a year. I want to get a good rate of return in that particular year, but I want certainty and security. Have I summed that up correctly or incorrectly?
Yes. That's what I want.
Okay, then you've got to stick to a money market account. You've got to shop around, and you need to also understand that banks show interest rates differently. There's what's called nominal interest rates and effective. I don't want to get too technical, but if a bank says I'm going to give you 8%, and you say to them, well, if I give you 800,000, what will I have at the end of the year? At 8%, you'll have 864,000. You'll have an interest of 64,000. Effective means we'll pay you 8%, but every month we'll add to that 800,000 the monthly interest. So that means at the end of the year, you won't have 864. You'll have probably 867 because you've had interest interest on interest in the month. So you always need to check up what is the effective and nominal rates. You need to get figures. When you talk to a bank and you say, I'm going to invest this money, please give me the amount that I'll have at the end of the year. And that's how you compare interest rates, because it's quite technical and complicated to compare all the rates. But that's where you've got to stick. You've got to stick to that investment. You've got to talk to the various banks. Also talk to, and don't ever overlook Investec. Investec have different costs to normal bankers, and therefore they maybe can pay a little bit more, because remember, every bank bank has branches that cost money, employees. Investec is more an investment bank. Talk to them. You can talk to RMB. Don't go out of that what I've just commented, because just always be aware, if you offered a higher rate of return from an institution, just be very careful that you understand who that institution is. Remember, the higher return, the greater the risk. You could end up losing your money. So stick with solid branded organizations, but that's what you should do. You can't take risk. If you phoned me and said, I want to invest the money, I'd say, right, have you got a 7 to 10 year time horizon? And I would have given you a different answer. But the minute you said, I want to at the end of the year, and understand why you are wanting to only invest for a year. My mother used to invest. My mother used to go to the bank every 6 months, and then she used to phone me from the bank and say, Mrs. Kukumwa has told her to reinvest for another 6 months. She invested 100,000 for 20 years. But the cost of that was the security she had, that she knew she had access to the money. She never used that 100,000. But so that's another reason why people need to think carefully. Understand why you say, I want money at the end of the year. Is it because you need the income, or is it just sound better shorter periods?
Okay.
All right, George, I hope
Thanks,
that
George.
helps you out.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sure. Gary in Bloem, you're back. Is it in Bloem
Hi,
or is it
g'day.
in Bloem?
Bloem. No, it's in Bloemfontein, mate.
Okay, there we go. No, it was a typo by Lev on the screen here.
No,
Go
well,
for it, Gary.
That's Lever's problem, not ours. But anyway, talking about this ago, Gaza is not the be-all and end-all.
Oh, Gary, are you on the road? The connection to you is
No,
not
I'm
great
not.
at all.
I'm actually in my car. I was going to a meeting when
Yeah,
guys
you see,
were
that's
phoning
sounding
back.
that's sounding a bit better. So just try and be steady, okay? Yeah.
Okay, I'm going towards my my thing that makes the car smell nice. But anyway, the ago is not the be-all and end-all of stuff. The European agreement is so vast. It is so vast that people only need to have a look at what's out there. Now, Donald Trump dropped the bomb, but it's not an atomic bomb. There is other things that you can look at. I'm sure Brian must know about that. So it's not gonna kill companies. Okay, the motor industry, but motor industry is in the Eastern Europe as well. The parts go to Eastern Europe. I mean, I'm part of that nonsense. You know what I mean? So that's it. That's all I've got to say. People have got to go out there, look for a credible consultant that can advise them on those kind of things.
And Gary, because you seem to be in the space somewhat, how difficult is it moving from one sort of value chain to another? How long does it take to, because I'm just, listening to what you're saying. Yes, there might be other opportunities elsewhere, but how long does it take to sort of plug and play from one to another?
It doesn't, because it's out there. The rebate systems, even bring into South Africa, a lot of the companies haven't got the expertise that people can have a look where you can save money. I do that every single day of my life. And even going out, you just there. I mean, there's a Zimbabwe agreement, the African free trade agreement, and all those things are there. You just need to navigate it. That's it. You just need to find someone that can help you. That's all.
Where do people find these people, Gary? If somebody's listening and they think, I need to find somebody like what Gary's describing. Where can they find them?
I mean, I work for SARS and I work for everybody, and I've been in this business for over 30 years, for almost 40 years. But I'm not on LinkedIn. I don't believe in it. But my clients, it's word of mouth, and people it's referrals. Let's put it that way.
Gary, you remind me of a story that I'll relate to you. I chaired an organization of 30 young students while they were at university 18 years ago. And these students wanted to learn about markets. There were 30 of them in our club, and I got top South African businessmen to talk to them every month. And I asked each businessman to leave them with a message, because, you know, a businessman at that level can talk to you. You're not going to remember everything. I said, please leave a message. So I'll give you 3 messages. Mark Lamberti of Maxmart and Imperial fame said, if you've got an idea and you don't write it down, it's worthless. Robbie Brosen of Nando fame said, there are no extraordinary people in South Africa. There are just ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Tim Medisa made the comment that doesn't matter where you've come from, the playing fields now are level and you've got to make your way against everyone and every competitor. But what Brian Joffe of Bidvest fame said has resonated with me all my life. Brian Joffe says, if an industry contracts 30%, in other words, the industry's turnover drops, and I've only got 1% of that industry, there's still someone out there who's got 69%. And Brian Joffe said, I'm not interested. Go out and attack lazy and negative and people who think they make things happen but are not making them happen. So what you're saying, Gary, you're absolutely right. I was just answering this morning questions I get on AGOA. It's not the be-all and end-all. Those people who are exporting are now looking for new markets, and they have to get out there and make things happen in new markets, because they can't, it's not just going to die. So what you need to know, but it does impact those few industries, and furthermore, tariffs will affect all industries. And remember, just to put this in perspective, the global total of equities worldwide is, and this is the dollar number, is $123 trillion, of which America makes up 70 trillion. So don't discount the power of America. And also remember, all the countries want to have positive balance of trade. They want to export more than they import. So we're all in the same boat. So we are competing with all these countries, and we are South Africans. One thing about them, we're in demand all over the world. Our leaders are tops. When a South African wants to get a job overseas, he has no job. Our training is here. We have great executive power in this country. So we've got to make things happen. You're absolutely right, Gary. People have to find other markets. They've had now 4 months to consider it, and we'll wait to hear. I was just giving definitions to questions that people phone in on after my radio show.
Okay, thanks, Brian. You know, I work for people, it's a group, but they've got 20 companies within the group. Like Brian Joffe did. He didn't go buy outside. He put it in his group. And then if he didn't have something in his group, he went to go buy the thing. He went to go buy it.
You're absolutely right. We can't just close up shop. We're not, and I can assure you, these companies are not closing up shop. They're doing something about it. But I'm just sharing about the dangers. And if they don't do something about it, I'm more concerned about one thing: the value of the rand, because it affects everyone, inflation, and 2, unemployment. We can't afford any more unemployment. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
But as I'm saying, Lebo knows me. He's got my contact details.
Okay.
If anybody's interested, I'm available to help him out. I've got no problem there. Look, I'm a pensioner, honestly. I'm a SARS ex, you know what I mean? So I'm out there.
Okay.
And I do it to keep myself busy. You know?
Okay. Gary, thanks for that offer. So you heard Lebo has got Gary's details. If you want to get in touch with Gary, you can just give us a call in, be very clear, and Lebo then will take your contacts and share them with Gary, especially if you are in that export market and are looking for different types of opportunities. So, Brian, still staying then with more questions for today. The importance of both spouses fully understanding financial planning.
Yeah, look, Sandy did deal with it, but I'll just share with you. In the Jewish religion, when someone passes on, people stay at home. It's called Shiva, and they spend 7 days at their home, and people come after the funeral during those 7 days to show their respects. They also bring food that you're not cooking, and you stay at home. And in my experience, when someone dies, there are two emotions they go through. The first is grief, and the second is guilt. Now, you should ask me, why guilt? Ask me.
Why guilt, Brian?
Okay, because at a time of grieving, Cathy, people are thinking of money. And they don't want to be thinking of money because they want to know who's going to pay the bond, who's going to do everything. So I'm not going to go into the importance of both families. But let me say this to you. In recent years, it's changed because today, whereas my father wanted my sister to marry a doctor, an accountant, or a lawyer, now you want your daughter to be an accountant, doctor, and lawyer and make her way in life. But often in the spouse, it's the husband that seems to take control of the finances rather than the spouse. And I'm not saying that's in all cases. So I'm not being disrespectful to any female entrepreneur. But the chances are, because of longevity and because men die younger and the life expectancy of a woman is much further, the chances are the female is going to be left with that responsibility. So coming to what the story is, where I've had clients whose husband has died and I've gone to visit them and I've put my arm around the shoulder, only if it's real, Cathy, and I've said to them, I'm sad to hear about the loss, but you will be okay. 3 weeks later, when they came to see me now to talk about finances, they said the most comforting thing I ever said to them was, you'll be okay, because it took their mind off. And I would never say to someone if it wasn't true, but it took their mind off that guilt trip about not knowing it. So all I'm saying that so many women are going to be handling the finances of the family, and that is the reason it's important that wives understand what happens in the event of death, what happens in the event of disability if you're left alone. Husbands also need to understand what happens if the spouse, who's an income-generating spouse, what happens if something happens to that spouse. And if you're just a stay-at-home mother, what happens if the mother passes on with the children? Can it affect your career? Because don't kid yourself, when a husband loses a spouse, boards of directors, maybe your whole life changes. You've got to be running up and down, checking up on the children, taking children to extramurals. Don't think companies don't think about that when they think about future promotion, because they have to think about the organization. They can be quite empathetic and sympathetic on the death. But eventually, I don't need to tell you, life goes on.
Isn't that the sad truth, Brian? Isn't that the sad truth? All right, let's play some of the voice notes that our listeners have been sending through. We'll take them one at a time.
Good morning, Brian. Devoka here. So I just need an advice, okay? So let's say you're a forex trader and you make money, different amounts of money every month, right? So when it comes to pay as you earn tax, do you advise that, for example, let's say I make, 20,000 for this month? Would you advise that I save, an amount that is equivalent to someone who earns 20,000 for tax, and then the following month, if I make 10,000, and then I save an amount that is equivalent to someone who earns 10,000, and so by the end of financial year, then I'll be able to pay those monies, because I mean, when it will be auto assessed, you'll be auto assessed according to the amount of money that you made.
Cathy, I'm so
Okay.
sorry. I lost the thread of that thing.
So basically, Tebogo is asking a question there that's also partially tax related.
Okay.
And he wants to know, he's a forex trader and his income sounds like it's quite erratic. But he wants to know that if he puts away money, so if he gets 20,000 Rand from his earnings this month, should he put away a figure equivalent to how much somebody earning 20,000 Rand a month would be paying in tax? Pay as you earn tax.
Okay. Very simply, the answer is, come the end of the year, you're going to calculate how much you earn for the year. What I do, my earnings are also sometimes quite erratic, depending, I get paid sometimes from institutions quarterly, some half yearly, some monthly. So they're different months of the year. I calculate at the beginning of the year what percentage, what I'm going to earn approximately for the year, and then what tax I'm going to pay, what deductions I'm going to make, and then I work out a percentage that I should put away every month. And so every month I put the percentage away of that earnings that I've calculated I'm going to pay over the year. The difference is, come the end of the year, if my earnings are higher, then I'm going to have to pay to the receiver. If my earnings are lower, then when I do submit my tax returns, if I've paid the tax, I will get a refund, or if I'm a provisional taxpayer, I will only pay the amount based on my earnings. That's how we do it.
All right. So you'd encourage Tabo to do the
Yes,
same.
very
Look
much
at it
so.
over an annual basis
Yes.
and not really a
Monthly,
month-to-month basis.
And then do the total calculation of what tax, and then every month work out what the percentage is. So if you earn 20,000 for 6 months and 10,000 for 10 months, your total earnings is 180,000. Get your deductions. I'm going to pay tax of 34,000 every month. Just deduct a percentage, but so some months you'll deduct more, some months you'll deduct less.
Yeah. All right, Deborah, I hope that helps you out. Here's another question on the voice note line for you, Brian.
Hi, morning, Cathy. My question is to Brian regarding power of attorney that you don't have in a case where things just suddenly turned around. So my cousin's husband, he's 64, he was fit and everything, and then something suddenly happened, he snapped. So now he basically doesn't remember the past 10 years of his life. He's on medication. He's got a letter from the doctors and everybody to medical related that he's unfit for work. She is unemployed as well. Can't access UIF because the work hasn't given the papers to her to say that he's retrenched or early retirement or anything like that, because they don't know what to do, but they're not giving him a salary. He's got a pension fund which he's trying to access, but because she doesn't have a letter of authority, what do we do in a case like that? Thank you.
You indicated that he's loss of memory for the last 10 years, but let me just raise this. That doesn't mean that person's incapable of running their financial side. The power of attorney ends when that person is no longer capable of managing their affairs, totally incapacitated. And by the way, it doesn't just come from illness, it can come from an accident, it gets stroke, all these things can happen to take away. Yeah, it's a sad situation that, as I said in my last program, power of attorney ends when the individual is no longer capable of understanding what they're doing. However, so many people continue acting on that power of attorney and they're not aware of this. But the institutions are becoming smarter now and more concerned about compliance, and they are now checking that that person that you've got a power of attorney on is capable, and if they find they're not, then very simply they will not allow you to operate on that power of attorney. In his case, you say he's now been boarded, so he's no longer working, and he wants to effect his retirement fund. Look, There are two ways you can go about it. One is through administration and the other is through curatorship. Administration is a lot cheaper. You're going to have to consult an attorney and see how you go about doing it, because even the power of attorney can't really act without power of attorney. But that's the best I can do. As regard your UIF, I know this is a major issue. And, again, it's one of those departments that don't understand. People you need, it's like, often I always say the government pension fund, taking months to give people their pensions. UIF's the same, can take months where people are destitute during that period. And again, I appeal to these organizations, please get your ducks in order. Help the people. When someone needs money from UIF, it's not charity you're giving out. They're paying for it every month. When you want to retire in the government pension fund, they've worked all their lives. They're entitled to get their money sooner. So please, all those two organizations and various others that one could mention. My pet hate is call centres. And again, I have to say, every chief executive, it should be law that you have to phone your call centre anonymously once a month to find out what goes on in call centres. Sorry, Cathy, I'm going to end there because you know my pet hates.
Once you get started with the call centres,
yeah,
it's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
Let me go to Umlazi. Bonelo, good morning.
Good morning. I just wanted to comment on one thing. I'm just listening to everyone crying, and I just wanted to comment and just say one thing. As we grow older, let's just normalize financial literacy. It's not a joke. As you grow older and you acquire assets, your partner should know about finances, should know about these things. It's not nice when I know my back and forth about my properties and everything. When I pass away, she doesn't know the first thing about levies, about the bond, where the money comes from and all those things. It's important for her to understand what's the first thing, how the finances in the family work and where the money comes from.
Yeah,
it's very important.
Umlazi, I've mentioned previously the life file, the importance of having a life file, all your documents in a file, your birth certificate, your marriage certificate, your ANC, anything else. If you've got properties, where are all the documents of those properties? If you've got bonds, who have you got bonds? Don't ever forget passcodes today. All the codes we have to use. I mean, people can't get into computers because they don't have codes. It's very important, Doc. You make an absolute valid point, and I hope you've taken the step to explain to your wife exactly, so when you pass on, she can grieve you and not feel guilty.
Yes, and also she has to know, because beyond those documents, the person handling those documents needs to understand what those documents are and what they mean. Because you can give a person a document that has got a million rands, they need to know what it means to handle a bank card with R1 million. And not just go and not go out and go shopping. That R1 million means they need to spend it for over 20 years.
Absolutely.
Umlazi, one comment. Title deeds.
Yes.
So many people have paid their homes off, but they haven't yet accessed the title deeds from the financial institution that they had a bond with. And I've come across cases where spouses don't even know. They know the house is paid for. They don't know where it was paid. They don't know where the title deeds are. So please, documents, birth certificates, marriage certificates, divorce certificates, all those things. I've got someone who phoned me and they've been divorced and they asked me this week, can I help them find a marriage certificate? I mean, I don't even know where to go to find a marriage certificate. So all I'm saying is all those documents in the life file. And I repeat again, I've got a document, a life file proposal, how people go.
Yeah.
And if you want it, please www.bhca.co.za. We will send you that life file that guides you of all the documents you need. It's probably on death the most important document you can have.
Okay. Sponelo, thank you so much for that contribution that you've put to the show this morning. Brian, I've got a question here for you. Why is SARS charging on the interest on the money market?
Well, interest earned is income, and you have to declare all your income. And if you're earning interest, then it's declared. For people under the age of 65, the first 22,800 is not taxable. And if you're over 65, I think it's 34,500. So up to that, you won't pay tax. Anything above that will be added to your income. It will increase your income so that at the end of the year, you will have an increased income and you won't have paid tax because the banks don't deduct tax. They give you a gross amount.
If one works for 30 years and retires, dies after 6 months, and your spouse dies a year later, who's liable to get that pension? And is it a monthly payout or a lump sum if it's going to a family member?
Okay, if it's a private fund, then depending on the annuity you've bought, if you bought a living annuity, your children will be able to either receive it by way of lump sum or continuing pension. There's tax implications. If it's a government fund, usually the government have a guarantee that you will have a minimum payment of 5 years to the spouse and thereafter for the spouse's life. I'm not sure what happens, and I'm sorry I can't help you because I can Google the government site, but certainly can't speak to them. I'm not prepared to hold on for half an hour and be told how important my call is and no one answers it.
Okay, Brian Hirsch, that's where we leave it for today. You're back on Tuesday.
I'm back on Tuesday. Just one thing, if you want me and you can't get through on www.bhca.co.za, you can call my radio line, which is now re-established, 011 880 488. You can see how I have to rush at the ends.
All right, Brian, thanks always for your time
You may
and
not
your
know
insights.
that I used to have a sign in the old studio which said, speak slower when you get to the end of the program.
Yeah,
Have a good week.
because people can't write your number down that quickly. But I'll repeat Brian's line for you on the other side of the 11 o'clock news.
Thank you, Cathy. On the top stories, bail denied in the Jade and Meigs case and traffic disruptions in Bezuidenhout heavily. For SAFM News, I am Ondalambana and a very good morning. We'll start with news just in. The Roodepoort Magistrates Court in Western Johannesburg has denied bail to the 31-year-old woman accused of killing her 11-year-old son Jaden Lee Meig in May. Judge Annalyn Africa has just delivered the judgment in Tiffany Meig's bail application. She is facing charges including murder, obstructing and defeating the ends of justice. The child's bruised body was found outside the Vliehof flat just a day after Meig's reported him missing. The case of 4 suspects arrested in connection with the killing of Oba Sefuga, popularly known as DJ Somebody, and 2 of his bodyguards has been postponed at the Alexandra Magistrates Court in Johannesburg. All 4 suspects, including the alleged mastermind Katiso Cathy Mohlahlana, were arrested in Gauteng earlier this month. Sefuga was killed in a hail of bullets in Woodmead in November 2022. The global youth empowerment movement Count Me In has called on for an urgent and complete overhaul of the country's current sponsorship regulatory framework. The movement advocates for reforms in the sponsorships industry. It has launched a campaign to reform the regulations which it believes disadvantage local entrepreneurs. The movement's chairperson, Bungile Mpanza.
You have to go a certificate of health. You have to get the certificate of fire. You had to get the certificate of zoning, which makes it very difficult because all those departments, they have also the fees that are charged for you to comply with them, which makes it very difficult for people who are not even making any money or on the operations of their sponsors. Also because you have to move from one area to the next area. It seems like the very laws are still used while the way people live today is different from that time.
The Johannesburg Metropolitan Police Department have warned motorists of traffic disruptions in the Bezuidenhout Valley area east of the CBD. This is due to an ongoing service delivery-related protest. JMPD spokesperson Xolani Fihla says about 200 protesters have blockaded the Albertina Sisulu Road from Bertrams towards the Daras Centre. Fihla has advised motorists to seek alternative routes.
JMPD officers are currently on scene managing traffic in response to a protest involving approximately 200 participants who have blocked off Albertina Sisulu Road from Bedrums towards Dara Centre. The affected roads include Albertina Sisulu Road, 2nd and 5th Street, 8th and 7th Avenue. The protest stems from a complaint regarding a prolonged electricity outage, which participants claim has been ongoing since February. Protesters are burning tyres in the affected area, though they have informed JMPD officials that their intentions are non-violent and their primary demand is the restoration of electricity.
The Electricity and Energy Department says South Africa's G20 presidency will benefit the country as it plans to expand its nuclear power generation capacity. South Africa's nuclear energy program has been in operation since 1984. The department will convene the third G20 Energy Transition Working Group meeting in Sun City in the northwest this week. The department is hopeful that South Africa's G20 presidency will open investment opportunities in the country's transition to renewable energy. The Deputy Director General is Zizamele Mbambo.
The G20 comprises some of the most advanced countries that have got wealth, that they could find opportunities to invest in South Africa as we are dealing with issues of our economy, and we're looking into investment from different countries. So the G20 provides that platform, and also looking into the energy space, it is a perfect opportunity that the South Africa would utilize to promote our energy mix.
Meanwhile, nuclear energy expert Professor Bismarck Chobeka says South Africa must form alliances with countries that have nuclear energy expertise such as Russia, China and South Korea.
Some of the arrangements may be the choice of a strategic partner, which is what Egypt did with the Russian Federation, to say that the producer of the technology owner will deploy the nuclear power plants in your country, but government must produce certain guarantees, such as the power purchase agreement. We'll build nuclear power plants for you, but you must commit to buying electricity from these nuclear power plants at a particular price for a particular period. That's part of your financing arrangements.
Recapping the top story, the Rotterport Magistrates Court in Western Johannesburg has denied bail to the 31-year-old woman accused of killing her 11-year-old son, Jaden Lee Meekin May. I'm on Dilambana for SFM News Headlines at 11:30.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Hear the rhythm, feel the heat at the Imbaula Music Festival in partnership with SAFM, where music, culture and community come alive. Join us on the 2nd of August 2025 at Pretoria Botanical Gardens from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. to vibe to Sanal musicians Calvin Momo, Amanda Black, Zing Lumalo, Trompis and many more. More than just music. Share stories, spark change, and unite against gender-based violence. Grab your tickets at imbaula.co.za. Brought to you by SAFM and SABC1. Hear the rhythm, feel the heat. Imbaula. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Spar brings you super savings. Get 800-gram Nescafe Rare Coffee value refill for $119.99 plus 250 megs free data on Spar Mobile. 120-gram Simba potato chips, any two for 32 Rand plus 100 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Or 2-liter Coca-Cola Original only, 2 for 44 Rand plus 100 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Plus, win your share of 6 million Rand in instant cash. Prices valid until 6 August while stocks last. T's and C's apply.
Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. Because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations from Wednesday, the 23rd of July for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. All on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC. The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
It's 10 after 11 o'clock. Welcome to the third and final hour of the Talking Point for today. Coming up in this hour, we're focusing on the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, which is said to be getting worse as thousands are now reported to be starving. The U.S. President Donald Trump described the situation as a real starvation. He called on Israel to allow every ounce of food into Gaza, as he's now under even more pressure to intervene. Well, let's listen to this latest report from Gaza, filed by Jeremy Bowen, aboard a Jordanian Royal Air Force plane that has been dropping aid as international news organizations and journalists are not allowed into Gaza.
At a desert air base in Jordan, some hope perhaps for the starving people of Gaza. Not just because two aircraft, one Jordanian, the other from the United Arab Emirates, were being loaded with relief supplies, but because the airdrops are a sign that the humanitarian crisis in Gaza is now high on the international agenda. Deaths from starvation have finally forced it there in a way that months of warnings from Palestinians and from the UN could not. The Jordanian aircraft took off for Gaza's airspace. It was a short flight. The loadmasters worked fast to prepare the parachutes for the drop. If they didn't open, a ton of relief supplies on a pallet could kill a family if it landed on a tent, which is the only shelter most Gazans have now. As the Hercules approached Gaza, the countdown started. 3 minutes to go. Then the aircraft was overland, and the 1-minute warning before it delivered around as much cargo as a single lorry can carry. They counted the parachutes and gave a thumbs up. All of them opened. Airdrops are usually considered a last resort, a way of getting limited supplies fast to remote and inaccessible emergencies. But Gaza is not remote, and it has been inaccessible because Israel has ruled that it must be. So the Jordanians have passed on a message from the Israelis. The Israelis don't want us to film out of the window at the devastation inside Gaza. But I've spent 10 minutes looking at it with my own eyes. And I can tell you that communities in the north of Gaza that I knew well, very vibrant, tens of thousands of people living hard lives, but actually with a remarkable human spirit. There's nothing left of them. Now, if you've been watching satellite pictures, it won't come as any surprise, but seeing it is really something. Israel will not allow reporters like myself to enter Gaza to report the story, and they don't want us to see it, to film it anyway, from above either. For now, by air and road, this is a limited operation. Israel says that unfettered relief supplies heading into Gaza would strengthen Hamas. The fact is that aid has not been reaching the people who need it most, and if that doesn't change, more will die.
Well, let's take you then into Gaza and bring you some of the organizations doing work there, or even those that are on the outside trying to assist. Let me welcome Dr. Martin M. Abu Ragaila, who is the Middle East Director for Gift of the Givers. Martin, good morning to you. I understand you are currently in Turkey and in transit.
Good evening. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me. Yes, actually, now I'm in Istanbul, but our team is so active now in Cairo and Egypt, also in Sinai, near the border. We preparing a lot of, like 3 trucks of food parcels to be sent to Gaza soon, because now the border has been opened for 3 days. They opened it by Saturday, and now they send every day almost like around 100 trucks per day sometime 150. But although this numbers of trucks is not enough to for the people who are starving inside Gaza, but at least we try our we try to do our job, our duty, and hopefully the Israel. We hope that with all the pressures in Israel to be from the borders to be opened completely, because at least we need, with the long term of starvation now, at least we need to send thousands of trucks actually.
So when you say that the border has now been opened for 3 days, what is it that you're being allowed to do? Martin? All right, not sure what happened to that line. We've lost Martin there. Let me invite also onto the show Aya El Mashharawi, who's an academic lecturer in the Gaza Strip. Aya, good morning to you.
Good morning, and thank you for hosting this conversation and giving space voices from Gaza. Actually, it means a great deal in times like this, when so much is being silenced or forgotten. I speak not only for myself, but for many who are living such genocide and starvation.
Suhail Wadi is director at Ashraful Aid. Suhail, good morning to you.
Me?
Hello, Suhail.
Yes, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, that's much better. Thank you so much. So, Aya, let me start with you, because you are currently in Gaza, and I guess you're seeing and experiencing firsthand a part of what has been happening there. Describe it to us in as far as the famine, the hunger, the food problem that Gaza is dealing with right now is concerned.
Okay, actually, daily life here in Gaza is no longer life as people know it. Daily life here under genocide and starvation has completely collapsed. The war has dragged on for nearly 2 years, and we are experiencing now a complete deprivation of basic things, basic food. We wake up not only to life, we wake up not to life of routines as normal people do or stability. It's just survival under genocide. Each day begins with a battle of uncertainty, a battle of searching for food. Will we find food? Will we find water? Will we survive the next airstrike? So here, everything is a battle of survival. People walk for hours just to fetch a small amount of unclean water. There is no running water in most places. Families here are forced to cook, if they have anything to cook, over wood, plastic, or trash, or something like that, because no cooking gas here is no longer available. Children collect anything to burn, broken furniture or something like that, just to burn, to cook anything they find to eat. So smell of smoke fills the air with suffering of people. Here we have series of battle, and here basically for a closure of borders for more than 3 months, we have a battle to find food, a battle to stay alive, a battle to shield our children. So every minute we live, minute after minute, just to cling to life with no safety, with no basic food. Now we have 1 kilo of flour equals to $100. You see, this is unaffordable to families here. And in many times the markets are empty. We don't find anything in the market even to buy. So we almost for 2 years, we have been deprived of meat, chicken, fruit, and many basic food. In the earlier stages of the genocide, we could at least depend on canned food, rice, beans, lentils, but now even those disappeared. We hardly ever find them. And if we find them, they are too expensive. It's difficult for most families here in Gaza under this war to afford them. So whatever food is still available, it's out of reach. It's costs more than people can pay. Many days pass here with nothing, with no piece of bread. Even a loaf of bread can be shared with family. So this is really a catastrophe here. It's a very, very problematic conditions and harsh conditions people here in Gaza are suffering in front of all the world. And I want to say that this is not, by the way, this is not normal hunger. It's intentional starvation. It's painful and it's a slow death. It's being done on Gazan people on purpose, by the way. I am, as a mother, my heart breaks every day. I watch my children starve most of the day, not because of normal hunger, but because of systematic starvation. I hear them, their stomachs growl. I see their bodies weakening. So nothing to find them in the market. So this is, again, a catastrophe that Gazan people are suffering under this genocide.
If you were to look at just the impact of what all of this has been on you, because you also referenced the last 3 months in particular, why do you get the sense that it has worsened in the last 3 months? And when we again look at the hunger problem, how many meals a day do people have? And is it even correct to talk about meals in the way that people would understand? What is it that people are eating when they are able to put something together?
We are now no longer have full meals. Sorry, we at least wanted to find just kilo of flour, at least to give bread to your children to eat, to stay alive. Now we are no longer depending on full meat, because we are talking about 2 years of war, and everything was difficult to have. The food is scarce. It's very little and very limited. The aids not accessible, and they are in very, very, when we are talking about some distribution centers like in Rafah, it's very, very far under occupation. Many people, they have been bombed, killed there, and very crowded. So we are talking about just maybe 5 to 10% of people who can get there because they want to feed their children, and many of them they got shot. So it's very difficult now just to think just how can you feed your children. And people here, most of families forget about meals. Now they just want something basics just to feed their children, especially milk for babies and bread for families to stand on their feet, not to faint. Many people faint in the streets because of the fatigue, because of the absence of food. And now we are not talking about even for healthy food, because it's cooked over wood, open fire, on burning trashes and garbage. So something very miserable. Gaza people used to have decent life before war, before this siege. People of Gaza, we never have anyone died because of starvation or because he's hungry. We have never such examples. But now, under war, under this aggressive genocide, under this aggressive intentional starvation, we have many people got die because of the absence of food, medicine, and such harsh conditions they are suffering.
Sohail, let me come to you. You, of course, are an organization that deals with aid. Speak to us about some of the work that you have been doing related to Gaza, and perhaps what it is that you can and can't do in trying to respond to the plight of Palestinians there.
Okay, thank you. So I think it's important that we put aid into Gaza into perspective. So around last year, from around January, aid was allowed to go into Gaza, but what's required would be around 500 to 600 trucks of aid per day. Even the bare minimum would be around 200 trucks daily. But what we had seen from around last year, the Israeli regime has only been allowing between 20 to 50 trucks a day, and at times even fewer. So when you do the maths over the weeks and the months, this is a deliberate strategy of starvation by attrition, a systemic choking of essential supplies, and it's a form of collective punishment and amounts to genocide. So before the closure of the Rafah border, we were able to get our trucks through. I've been to Egypt myself packing the trucks. It would take us about 6 weeks for a single truck to get through. But after the Israeli incursion into Rafah, all movement of aid, including humanitarian aid, came to a halt. So to illustrate, we had about 2 trucks that were stuck on the border for about 2 months. Eventually, we had to reroute them back into Egypt and distribute the contents to Palestinians that are living in Egypt. And this is just one of the examples of the logistical nightmare and policy-imposed barriers that we faced. If you look at recent, there's a false narrative being pushed that aid is allowed into Gaza. So let's be clear, if 500 trucks are needed on a daily basis, and if you just heard our previous colleague mentioned that only in the last few days, there's about 100 trucks a day, this creates a deliberate famine. So starvation is being weaponized. And this is not aid, this is cruelty disguised as concession. And we've also looked at some of the airdrops. First of all, by what we've just heard in the start by Jordan and the UAE. But for me, this is largely symbolic. So a plane might carry around, say, 25 tons of food, which would feed about, on average, around 12,500 people. So in a place where 2 million people require food aid, you can see, it's not even a drop in the ocean. Plus, obviously, people's lives are at risk. Some of the aid falls into the sea. People have to go and swim. So it's very uncoordinated. And if you look at the at the end of the last ceasefire, which happened in March, we were not able to get any trucks into Gaza, and we had to pivot and purchase locally through merchants from within Gaza. But even over the last month, that has dried up. So right now, we can only provide some vegetables and water. Even hot meals are not longer possible. We haven't been able to source or cook them for over 2 weeks, and many of our partner organizations have also told us that the kitchens are dry, they simply cannot cook. Meanwhile, the sad part is that there are over 6,000 trucks in Kerem Shalom waiting at the border to enter. But, this drip feeding of aid of over 100 trucks, and the blocking of this by the Israeli military, it's a real shame. So for us, we join over 100 agencies, global agencies around the world, in calling for unrestricted and immediate access to Gaza. And this is not about aid, it's about dignity, survival, and justice. Just to understand, when we could get flour, one bag of flour costs $700. And if you look at over 100 children has passed away. And, this cannot continue because we're seeing this genocide that is unfolding of children, innocent children, over 100 that have already passed away.
Sohail, I'm also just thinking about the practicality and reasonability, right, of trade in an environment like this. So because goods have become so expensive, but there isn't necessarily normal life happening, is it even fair to expect that people would be able to buy food? How would they be earning that income if, a lot of what has been in the city has now been raised to the ground?
Yeah, so it's exceptionally difficult to even source, merchants that are able to provide. Currently now, the entire Gaza is dry of any food. And, obviously we have to look at it from several perspectives. One is the immediate relief aid that of goods that they send into Gaza. The other one is from aid or goods that are sent, that are purchased by merchants. But all of that, there's a there's that has stopped, and from both ways. The very bare minimum is that if you can get maybe someone that is doing some subsistence farming of, say, maybe chickens or maybe some vegetables, and being able to purchase. But even that is exceptionally difficult from our teams and our partner organizations that are there. Basically our hands are tied. There's globally there's funding, there's trucks of aid that is there, but the deliberate blockade by the Israelis of allowing aid that is there to supply the people of Gaza, I think that is the key question of how do we enforce or force the Israeli military to allow humanitarian aid unrestricted into Gaza.
We're going to continue the conversation shortly, looking at the hunger crisis in Gaza. It's an unfolding humanitarian issue as well. It's 11:30, time for your latest news headlines.
Thank you, Cathy. On the news headlines, the Roodepoort Magistrates Court in Western Johannesburg has denied bail to the 31-year-old woman accused of killing her 11-year-old son, Jaden Lee, in May. Workers' Union Giusa is demanding the immediate withdrawal of Metro Rail fare increases, which are expected to take effect on Friday, and most aid is still failing to reach those in need in Gaza despite the increased volumes of trucks. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. What is Overtrail? Is it off the beaten path, over the edge of comfort, or the thrill of the road less taken? It's over every bridge, every obstacle, every trail, and over to that view that takes your breath away. Overtrail means going further, exploring deeper, surrounded by the comfort and sophistication of a luxury SUV. It's this spirit that inspired the Overtrail project. Experience Overtrail in the LX and GX range. Lexus. Experience amazing.
Hear the rhythm, feel the heat at the Imbaula Music Festival in partnership with SAFM, where music, culture, and community come alive. Join us on the 2nd of August 2025 at Pretoria Botanical Gardens from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. to vibe to Sanal musician Calvin Momo, Amanda Black, Zing Lumalo, Trompis, and many more. More than just music. Share stories, spark change, and unite against gender-based violence. Grab your tickets at imbaula.co.za. Brought to you by SAFM and SABC1. Hear the rhythm, feel the heat. Imbaula.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
You're listening to The Talking Point. In this final hour of the show, we're looking at the situation in Gaza, where thousands are reported to be starving due to restrictions on humanitarian aid flowing into that particular region. Joining us for more on the story is Aya El Mashwa Harawi, who is an academic lecturer in the Gaza Strip, and Suhail Wadi, who is director at Ashraf Full. Earlier we had Dr. Malik on the line with Gift of the Givers. Unfortunately, we've lost that line to him because he is in transit in Istanbul, and they're also working on getting some form of aid into Gaza. Aya, one has seen statements especially from the Israeli Defense Force and the government, that seek to reject the reporting about starvation in Gaza. They deny that people are starving to death, literally. They say that this is just part of propaganda. How would you respond to that?
Yes, actually, here the reality on the ground has the truth to say about. Here, when we are talking about hunger, we have here the whole people of Gaza here, and we have many reports talking about that, they are being under hunger, under systematic hunger, under starvation. Children are shrinking, adults are fainting. Many people fight over a handful of rice or flour. Some here, the Ministry of Health reported numbers of people who have died with nothing in their stomachs. And this is not caused by natural disaster. It's a systematic starvation, and it's weapon being used silently and fatally. Gaza being starved in front of the world. And even when some trucks are allowed in, actually they are very, very limited and nearly impossible to reaching people. As I said, distribution points are very far, unsafe, and overcrowded, and what just reach, just very limited, not getting to all people. And we are talking about many areas in Gaza have been seen aid in months. The roads are destroyed, communication is broken, people can't get even to arrive to such limited points like Rafah, because it's under occupation. So even people who got there, who are just minority of people got there, they risk of their life, because many people they shot or bombed, and massacres happened there. So, and that is not a way of dignity for distributing food. When food does arrive, it's very minimal. It's not meeting the massive need of the Gazan people. Actually, the scale of a humanitarian need is massive. What trickles in can't meet even a fraction of it. So this is not the reality, and the starvation is real in front of the eyes of all people around the world. And even when we are talking about when you hear about some aid that allowed in media, actually the gap between what is said in the media and what we see on the ground is very big, is enormous. So it's not reaching, actually.
So Aya, tell me about how you and your family are surviving.
Actually, it's a battle of survival. I am an academic and researcher instead of getting my dreams to continue, and I am very distinctive in my academic journey, whether as a PhD researcher or as an academic lecturer. I am here as a mother, just to spend of my day, just to how can I find something in the market to feed my children. We survive only by Allah's mercy. Actually, it's not that easy. It's not that easy. When I am, instead of spending my time doing my research and my job as a lecturer, I'm spending my day just going there to find something to feed my children, or a shelter because of the constant bombing. Because here we have a minute of silence, a minute of bombing. So even going to the market under bombing is risky. And when we go to the markets are nearly empty, and with expensive skyrocketing prices. And I'm talking about many people, if they can afford money now, and or some days, what about other days? They have empty wallets, because prices are so expensive, because we have just limited food in the market. So that is not easy. That is not our normal life. Now we because we have our universities bombed and others taken as shelters, we resort to online teaching solutions, though it's not an easy thing to do that, but we want to keep on. We want to keep our education on. And imagine that I am as educator, I spend teaching with asynchronous classes with hunger. I feel fatigue. I feel every single task like a mountain. I can't do this like normal time. I used to do this. I am a PhD researcher. I had to defer three semesters of my study, and I was one. I has a top rank upon Palestine in secondary certificate, and I have one of the top academic levels in my profession. Now I have to spend time just in basic things. Why this happening to dignified people of Gaza? This is not fair. This is unfair. We have unanswered the questions. Why this is happening to us? We are dignified people. We want this genocide to stop, and we need everything to enter in its formal channels to get to access to all people here in Gaza, not like what we see, just like competition of some people under starvation to hurry and rush in crowds to find something to eat, just handful of flour or some rice. This is really unfair. We are now in 21st century, and we have not natural disaster of hunger. This is a catastrophe. This is a catastrophe. I'm talking about a reality. I'm talking to you alive now and with empty stomach. I can't find. I try when I find something, I feed it to my child. You know, I'm talking with hot feelings with you now, because I am in reality, in harsh reality, and I am not alone. I am example of many, many people here in Gaza, with their mothers, with their educators, with their students, with their any normal one here.
Aya, thank you so much for sharing that with us and for giving us that account. Sohail, you know, it of course still very much continues to be a blame game politically. There is also an opportunity to isolate the humanitarian matter, right, to respond just to the fact that you have people that are going hungry. But the fact that there's also a downplaying or even a denialism of just how bad the situation is, how much more difficult does that make your work as an aid organization?
Yeah, so, you know, as an aid organization, you know, we by nature, we're non-political, you know, from the very outset. But here what we are seeing is that there is aid available. You know, there's 6,000 trucks that are available. Over 100 agencies plus globally is working or has access to, or the ability to help the people of Gaza. But this, you know, narrative or the unacceptance of that there is starvation that is happening by the Israeli government makes it exceptionally more difficult. But I think it's up to us as citizens, to continue to push our governments and to continue to push the Israel, you know. And I guess, you know, after this, when it does settle, you know, there's going to be a lot of information that will come out to show the impact of this systemic starvation of the people of Gaza. But it makes it exceptionally difficult for us. The sad part, what really is painful, is that there is aid available at the border, and it just needs that border to be unrestrictedly open and allow aid to enter into Gaza. That's what is required.
Sure. And in the absence of that, Sohail, what do you think is going to be the worst case scenario here? What is this all building up to, the way that you see it, if nothing changes?
There's definitely, you know, we've already seen, you know, mass deaths that are happening because of starvation. You know, we've seen the difficulties of people, even when trucks enter, that is, you know, because of desperation, people will will try to get as much as they can. The sad part also, we also have reports and from some of our colleagues, that their family members, as they're trying to get aid, walking for a long time just to reach some of the distribution points, are being shot at as well. That's up to last week. There's reports of that. So it's incredibly and really, really sad. And we just pray that the plight could be eased. But definitely, we're going to see much more mass deaths that's going to happen.
What do people in the rest of the world do? What can they do? Those that are at least looking on to the situation.
I think we should echo the truth. Make it loud and make it very blatant. So that each of the governments that were complicit of allowing this genocide to happen, and hold people accountable. So I think it's important that every day we continue to echo and to amplify our voices on the basis of being human.
Aya, as somebody who is in Gaza right now, the rest of the world that is watching, what is it that you would want people to know or even to do about the situation?
Yes, I want to say that we are here in Gaza. We are not numbers. We are not just experiencing a war. We are enduring a genocide. And actually, it's an erasure of our life, of our dignity, of our hope, of our dreams. We are being stripped of everything, even food, education, safety, health, future, our houses, our neighborhoods, our entire life, and the world is watching. We are not asking for luxury. We are asking for the right to live safely and push to stop this genocide. We need to get sufficient food, clean water, decent life that we used to sleep without hearing bombs. Every minute we have airstrike and bombs, to let our children dream and grow up. Every delay in action costs lives. So every silence really becomes complicity. Thank you.
Let me thank you both for your time. Ala El-Mashharawi, who is a lecturer in the Gaza Strip, and Suhail Wadi, director at Ashraful Aid. So that's just a perspective coming through from Gaza in as far as the impact of that humanitarian crisis and hunger problem is concerned. Okay, so we'll leave it then on that note for today on The Talking Point. The show back with you again tomorrow between 9 and midday. Up next is the book reading.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 105.6 FM in Palabora.
SFM's award-winning drama department presents another episode of the book, A Testament of Hope, the autobiography of Dr. Sam Motswenyane. Please note that the views expressed in this book are not that of the station. Listeners' discretion is advised.
I found this to be very strange because I had led the organization for over 24 years without anybody even thinking about another successor. At every conference for a very long time, my executive was returned unopposed. On numerous occasions at the conferences, I would stand up and say, I want to retire. But members would say to me, we are still midstream, how can you retire now? We have not crossed the river yet. It was in that spirit that I continued to be president and received complete support from all sectors and regions of the organization. I cannot think of any one region that was opposed to my leadership at any stage, including when I said, yes, we have found a successor. Following my retirement as president, I was only able to attend the 1993, 1994, and 1995 NAFCOC conferences due to my assignment to Saudi Arabia in 1996 as ambassador for South Africa. The work that my colleagues and I did for NAFCOC during the 24 years of my presidency was not for personal gain. It was, for the most part, a personal sacrifice and was not done to generate wealth for any individual member. It did, however, enrich us tremendously with knowledge. We built NAFCOC primarily on sacrifice, and it is important that our children do not forget where we come from. They must not think that because we now have more to share, there is much less sacrifice required to promote our nation's development. That spirit of unity and togetherness cultivated over the past 47 years of the organization's existence is vital to the future of NAFCOC and to the business fraternity in our country as a whole. We have something which is greater than money that we must continue to build in NAFCOC. That spirit of unity and togetherness is very important to us. Under no circumstances must we lose that. It is not clear to me how much those leaders who succeeded us share the same passion and commitment to the organization and its founding principles. One of the things that NAFCOC did well during my time was to keep very good records. We kept large volumes of documents that unfortunately were not properly preserved after the old guard left. After my retirement from NAFCOC in 1992, I found it difficult and almost impossible to relax and enjoy the easy life that many elders often look forward to. For me to do nothing while witnessing the stagnation and poverty that we are all crying about is simply not acceptable. Sitting with my ideas and my knowledge but doing nothing or saying that I'm old and have retired would be irresponsible. This reminds me of a remark once made by Mr. Mandela when I told him in Parliament that I would like to retire. I said to Mr. Mandela that at my age, he would be aware that I had now been harnessed once again. I felt that I surely deserved to be retired. He said in response, "You are much younger than me and I'm still in harness. Why would you think of retiring when I, your older brother, am still so much involved?" That is waka. I was immediately silenced. Some of us do enjoy seeing things moving in the right direction. Even in the twilight of our lives, we continue to aspire to see that tomorrow will never be the same again for our kids and our grandkids. This is my vision. When I go, there has to be something better that one leaves behind for all South Africans, something good and something sustainable. That is what one would want to see. You want to say to those you leave behind, stay in peace and continue to work for progress. Chapter 10. The Winds of Change. The South Africa Foundation and the Urban Foundation. From the early 1960s, after the delivery of the famous Winds of Change speech before the South African Parliament by Sir Harold Macmillan, the Prime Minister of Great Britain, growing internal and external political as well as economic pressures on South Africa compelled both politicians and business organizations in the country to take defensive positions. On the business front, in addition to the predominantly English-speaking Associated Chamber of Commerce, ASOCOM, and the Afrikaanse Handelsinstituut, AHI, the South African Foundation was established as a business organization whose primary purpose and objective was to promote South African business interests overseas. The foundation had its headquarters in Johannesburg, but had also opened branch offices in the capital cities of the country's major trading partners, namely London, Paris, Bonn, and New York. Membership of this organization consisted largely of prominent white individuals and directors of companies, particularly those involved in the exports and import business. The foundation's board of trustees had a mere handful of notable black leaders. In 1973, I was included amongst those few black leaders who were invited to serve as members of the Board of Trustees of the South Africa Foundation. In accepting to become a board member of the foundation, I entertained the high hopes that this would enable me not only to make the desirable contact with top white leaders who were in control of the levers of economic power in the country for the benefit of the disadvantaged and oppressed business community that I was the leader of, but it would also provide me in some way with the opportunity to influence political leaders who were members of the foundation. The importance of having black people serving as members of the South African Foundation became clearly recognized as opposition and criticism leveled against the country's apartheid system increased. The part played by the white business leadership in further promoting or entrenching the much maligned political system remained a key matter of concern and debate internationally. It was believed that white business people, especially in the large companies, were not helping attempts to bring an end to apartheid. They were instead buttressing the system to the disadvantage of black community. In 1974, the South Africa Foundation mandated a delegation of 2 business leaders comprised of Mr. Cyril Pierce, chairman of the White Johannesburg Chamber of Commerce, and myself as president of the Black National Federated Chamber of Commerce, to visit several European countries. The purpose of the trip was to address business people in Europe on the business and political climate in South Africa. This joint delegation representing black and white chambers in South Africa was intended to be reflective and indicative of the visible progress that was being made towards eliminating racial separation in the business sector, a matter about which the international community was deeply concerned. In England, the delegation held and addressed meetings in London at Oxford University, Edinburgh University, and Hull University. In France, the delegation held meetings with business people in Paris. From Paris, the delegation proceeded to Germany and held meetings in Bonn, Stuttgart, and Munich. Our final destination was Vienna in Austria, where 2 meetings were held with business leaders. I can still vividly recall how, as we were having breakfast at the restaurant in an old castle near Stuttgart one morning, a little girl accompanying her parents left their table to come closer to us. She wanted to have a good look at me. She was probably wondering why I was different from the rest of the people dining in the restaurant. They were all white. As she continued looking at me from all angles and even touching my hand as if to determine whether the skin color might change, her parents asked her in German, "Why are you moving around that person?" She replied, "I love this man." This made everybody laugh. The incident clearly demonstrated how innocent and loving children could be until late in their lives, when their attitude is contaminated by the hatred and the prejudices of their parents and other adults. I asked the parents to tell the child that I loved her also. That made her extremely happy and overjoyed as she moved away from our table to again sit with her parents.
That was another episode of the book, A Testament of Hope, the autobiography of Dr. Sam Mohlahlana. The book is available online on www.kmmr.co.za, KMMR Publishers, and in all leading bookstores countrywide. It is broadcast on SAFM at 11:45 Monday to Thursday on The Talking Point. It is produced for the station by Vovi Patala, read by Samson Kumalo. Technical production, Wiseman Mangele, Nanda Koza, and Tato Mapuruma.
SAFM supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAFM, leading the conversation. This Mandela Month, Nelson Mandela once said,
"We have traveled a long journey. We have fought for peace and reconciliation, for social justice, for all men, women, and children."
SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.